Hello everybody and good morning. A very, very warm welcome. My name is David Roth from WPP. It's an absolute pleasure and delight to welcome you all here today. I'm unbelievably grateful that very early on a Tuesday straight after a bank holiday that you're all here. So I admire your stamina even now. We've got an action-packed, insight-full couple of hours. This morning we rang the bell here at the London Stock Exchange to start the day's trading in celebration of the contribution that brands make to driving and increasing shareholder value, and also clearly to launch the WPP BrandZ Top 100 Most Valuable Global Brands. And this year the BrandZ Top 100 set an absolute record, increasing 21%, the highest year-on-year percentage increase we've seen in a decade, and the greatest addition to shareholder value that we've seen, which is around 748 billion, yes, that's right, billion US dollars. And this surge of value increase impacted every single category that our brands fall into. And this stellar achievement has really followed around 12 years of steady growth. That steady growth has been buffeted a bit by the global economic crisis that we witnessed a few years ago, and the ongoing and probably more significant in the long term increasing disruption that we're seeing in terms of e-commerce and radically changing consumer purchasing and buying habits, and of course new technologies, including artificial intelligence and fintech, which we will be discussing probably at length in terms of some of the results that Doreen Wang will be going through with us, and also our distinguished panel after that. And although this year's stronger global economy has influenced the value of that increase that we've seen, it was only one factor. And a rising tide floats all ships, but a growing economy does not float all brands, at least not equally. Strong brands do better, and usually much better. And this is best evidenced in the stock market, and that's one of the reasons why we are here today. And we're also very proud to be able to say that a number of the brands in the top 100 are listed here at the London Stock Exchange. So Vodafone, HSBC, Shell, BT, ASOS, Barclays, Guinness, Prudential, Burberry, BP, Dove and Lipton's, and Tesco. Some of those brands are in the top 100, some of those brands are in the category rankings, as well as a number of brands that actually have their secondary listing also here at the exchange, such as BBVA and Santander, IBM, Total, and also Movistar. But over the past 12 years, when the S&P index has increased over that period by 102%, the BrandZ strong brand portfolio, and that's brands in the top 100 with the strongest brand equity, increased by 172%. And Doreen will be showing you and explaining to you how that works in a little bit more detail later. And when you look at that gap, that growth gap is worth a hell of a lot of shareholders' money. And that gap is getting even wider. And brands that are very different and are innovative and themselves are disrupting the marketplace are actually growing value significantly faster than even the strongest brands. So over the past 12 years, our other index, which is the BrandZ Strong and Innovative Brands portfolio, have increased by a staggering 227% in value. And that's more than twice the rate of the S&P 500. And here really is the key insights. Brands that depend on the economic tide alone may get caught in the turbulence. Growth, and maybe even survival, now depends on being highly innovative and very different, and communicating those advantages in a very, very innovative and in different ways. And as John O'Keefe, our WPP Global Executive Creative Director, said on many occasions, that requires a massive, massive big idea across whatever medium you use, be it traditional TV through to social networks. Our BrandZ Top 100 Most Valuable Brands is created to help you and all brand builders to really understand what levers you need to pull in order to grow and sustain value in today's highly disruptive, highly innovative, and highly fun, if you like, disruption and innovation marketplace. Our analysis finds that brands that grow value by anticipating and fulfilling the needs and wants of consumers in highly relevant ways that are themselves highly innovative create an amazing emotional connection. And within all the disruption that's going on, with all the new media that we now have the opportunities to use, with all the big data that we can pull upon in a nanosecond, old truths still remain the same, that the emotional connection that a brand has with the consumer is its strongest bond and its greatest defense against competitive activity. And those brands that do that distinguish their brand from the competition. So let's get going, and let's, for the first time this morning here, announce and show you the BrandZ Top 100 Most Valuable Global Brands for 2018. Well, to give us some context, some colour, some texture, and least of all, but most important, insight, I'm going to hand over to Doreen Wang. Doreen wasn't in the room when I spoke slightly earlier before, so I just want to repeat what I said there, which is I just want to say an amazing thanks to Doreen. I've been partnering with Doreen for a number of years on BrandZ, and I'm absolutely privileged to be able to work with somebody as good, talented, and as good fun as Doreen. So, Doreen Wang, the Global Worldwide Director for BrandZ for Millward Brown. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, David. Welcome, everyone, to the BrandZ party. BrandZ is the largest brand equity building platform in the world. In the past 12 years, we have researched and valued over 122,000 brands in 51 country markets. And BrandZ is being rated as the most rigorous and consumer-oriented ranking approach. We have interviewed over 3 million consumers in the world, and by using Kantar, Millward Brown's MDS framework, how meaningful, different, and salient the brands exist in the minds and hearts of the consumers, which is impacting their purchase journey. I actually did some calculation. Winning any award out of 120,000 brands is statistically more difficult than winning the Academy Award. So congratulations for winning the Oscar of marketing. Let's give ourselves some applause. Why do we need to build strong brands? We always ask ourselves that question. Better margin, fend off competitor, but more important than that, strong brands generate superior shareholder returns. In the past 12 years, the global top 100 outperformed S&P by a massive 70% and more than 3 times better than MSCI. And to us, more interesting is, during the challenging year, 2008 and 2009, both strong brands and average brands dropped their share price. However, it only took strong brands half a year versus the average brands 4.5 years to recover. So we definitely need to keep that in mind. As marketers and brand builders, marketing, brand building is not cost. It is the most important investment any company should make to ensure long-term sustainable growth, especially in the AI and digital era, because the strong brand's advantage is increasing year after year. How do we value brand? 2 important steps. Step 1 is financial value. Financial value created by a brand of any company. And we use public data, Bloomberg data, Kantar World Panel, and Kantar Consulting data as validation. So the perception needs to be validated by real consumer behavior. Step number 2 is brand contribution, the proportion of financial value generated by the brand's ability to increase your purchase volume or charge premium. Because of the strength of the brand, consumers want to buy more or pay more for you. And these 2 steps combined, and we get the final brand value. And in the past 12 years, we found that the second step, consumers' endorsement, their love is very important. And those brands enjoy high brand power, and strong brand endorsement is growing their brand value, which is more than 3 times higher than the other brands. 2018, as David mentioned earlier, is a record year. And we have, the top 100 have grown by a massive 21% and reached the $4.4 trillion. Whoa, 4.4 trillion looks big. It's actually very big. It is almost equal to the country GDP of Japan. 100 brands' value is equal to the 3rd largest economy in the world. And our top 5, Google and Apple, 2 of the most innovative brands, remain as number 1 and number 2. Google, from driverless car to machine learning and to surgery exploration, medical exploration, and Apple, the launch of iPhone X and Watch 3. And these 2 brands keep enriching consumers' lives. And we have a new number 3, which is Amazon, an ecosystem brand from e-commerce to music to video to Alexa. Don't answer. And it is building and setting the bar higher and higher for delivering great convenience. And Microsoft, very successful in cloud and hybrid cloud business, and Microsoft is also our top B2B brand. Every year when we talk about top 5, we had to say they're all from the United States. Not anymore. And the monopoly is being broken by a Chinese guy, Tencent, and a leading social media platform. But Tencent is not one brand. Tencent is a house of brands, and all the way from social media to online gaming to mobile payment and all the way to transport booking. And that Tencent is keep expanding their social and ecosystem surrounding consumers' lives. Speaking of fast, yes, you don't need me to tell you we live in a fast age, but here is a fast example. The total value of the top 100 in 2006 is even less than today's top 10, the brand value. And among the top 10, 8 are from the United States and 2 from China. And we talk about Tencent. The other one is, can you make a guess? Alibaba, yes, the famous Alibaba, the e-commerce platform. So when we look at the past 7 years, yes, the tech 5, we call them fearsome 5 or friendly 5. You can call them anything. And Google, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Facebook, and they increase their value by a massive, almost 200%, triple their brand value. And during the same time, there are other technology companies, we call them China trailblazers, Tencent, Alibaba, Baidu, Huawei, and JD.com. They have grown their value by a phenomenal 12 times. And we believe that the battle between the West and the East, especially between US and China for the technology leadership, is escalating. And so speaking of the top 10, let's travel back, riding the time machine and travel back to 12 years ago. Picture yourself. You're riding your Toyota and get some cash from Citibank and stop by at Walmart and bought a pack of Coca-Cola and maybe a pack of Marlboro. And these are still very, very strong brands. But they are not in the top 10 anymore because consumers' purchase journey have changed. Last week, my 10-year-old boy picked up iPhone and talked to Siri and then changed to Alexa and ordered some batteries and delivered in our front door the next day. When I asked who ordered it, and he blamed Alexa. And the emergence of the next generation of brands is along with the digitalization and mobilization of consumers' purchase journey. And speaking of fast, these guys are fast. These are the top 20 fast risers from the top 100 and category risers. JD.com is an leading e-commerce platform in China, and PayPal, Netflix, Tesla, lots of tech brands, and not only them, and we have also seen luxury brands, Dior and Louis Vuitton, and Adidas, sportswear brands, and Shiseido, cosmetic brand from Japan. But they have one thing in common, and that is they are very meaningfully different. And that they are disruptive and they deliver great brand experience. When we look at the top 20 risers compared to the top 100 average, and that they are performing better on each of these three important consumer perception, especially they're able to shaking things up and deliver great experience. The higher you want to go, the better you need to do. And the world is not just fast, but also moving around. When we look at the brands contributed, the regional brand contributed to the global top 100, North America growing from 63% to now 71%, as mentioned earlier. China from just 3%, one brand, and now to 14 brands, 14%. The other regions are also growing, but at a relatively modest rate. And it's also for the first time ever, the top 20 B2B brand is growing faster than the global top 100 overall. And many of the B2B brands are from technology industries, but they are showing a shift to cloud-based business model. It is led by Microsoft. And also we have observed that the borderline between B2B and B2C is disappearing. And many of the B2B brands are successfully transforming themselves into a B2H brand, business to human. And across the 14 categories, this is the first time ever we have seen that all the 14 categories has increased their value, and they share some common theme. For example, disruption, disintermediation, differentiation are the keywords. All these categories. Just give you some example. Amazon effect. Yes, new brand and the non-brand and start selling on Amazon and based on the trust of consumer reviews and give you more choices, but in the meantime, and give a lot of new challenges to the established and the legacy brands. Voice commerce alone, the sales is going to become $40 billion only in the United States in the next 4 years. Yes, there are more choices and more convenience, but we as consumers are relying more and more on Alexa, on the algorithm to make that decision for us. And AI is not just a concept anymore. AI is moving from idea to reality. If you're going to China, the airport and the banks, facial identification is a must-have. And the fintech, the emerging tech portents category transformation. And because of these disruptions, and we are seeing that the composition of the global top 100 has shifted from consumer brands to tech brands. 12 years ago, consumer brands is contributing to 32% of the top 100. Now that number is reduced to 15%. And instead, tech brands from just a third to more than a half. And the tech is not tech. And there are a lot of tech-related brands. And the manufacturer brands, cosmetics brands, they are partnering with tech brands to deliver superior consumer experience. For example, Budweiser partnered with Lyft to avoid drunk driving, and Uber Eats and the McDonald's partnership, Nestle with Starbucks. We are living in the era of partnership. If you cannot deliver the experience by yourself, you can always find a partner to collaborate. Yes, in a disruptive world, one thing remains unchanged. That is our human nature. We still persistently pursue comfort, convenience, and very willing to compromise. So when ideal meets real, we value authenticity over perfection. So healthy eating is not just about salad. A hamburger could be enjoyable if it is fresh and locally sourced beef. And the news is getting increasingly depressing. Consumer wants to escape from it. And lots of luxury brands and realize that change and giving you very bold color and streetwear styles. And so they can capture these consumers' mood change. And when disruption is shaking hands with comfort, a lot of categories are going through transformation. Here are just a few. Telecom is moving from telco providers to, what are they calling themselves now, telcos? Content brands, bingo. And how about oil and gas? Not the oil and gas anymore. Who are they now? Energy, new energy, sustainable energy, and Shell is a great example. Not Coke drinks anymore. What are they? Healthy soft drinks. Yeah, and the car brands, not car brands anymore. They are becoming mobility brands. Wow, did you see my presentation? Okay, and the retail. And changing from retail to experience, to e-commerce, No, there is a newer term announced by Jack Ma 4 months ago. It's called new retail ecosystem. It's not O2O anymore. It is O plus O, online plus offline. Amazon, Whole Food, and Alibaba and JD all acquiring a lot of retail and the traditional retail and the supermarket. So the online experience is bringing to offline, and the new ecosystem is building around it. And so, in this new retail disruptive world, how can we build strong brands? Before I share with you some key lessons, I want to ask you a tricky question. Can you make a guess? In the past 10 years, how many brands have been displaced? Any guess is correct. Any guess? How many brands have dropped out? 50. Any other guesses? 30. Okay, any other guesses? Any bold guesses? They also say 100. Yeah, in India, CEO kept saying, it's 100. Wow, very good, not that fast. And the answer is 48. You're right again, almost half of the brands have been replaced. And so we welcome this year's new entrants. And 8 of them, they are from 7 categories and from every corner of the world. Yes, Uber, Instagram are very famous, but how about BCA? For the first time ever again, and we have Indonesia brands entering the global top 100. BCA is a leading bank very committed to provide financial support to the average Indo, especially the youth. And a lot of people are asking me this tough question. Is it more difficult to get into the global top 100? And my answer is yes, it's getting harder and harder. So when we look at the new entrants, they are stronger on brand power and brand premium. Also, they have a strong growth potential, and even compared to our remaining brands. But on the other hand, if you cannot keep up with that speed, and if you lose your momentum, and you're lagging behind and might be dropped out. So, how can we grow our value like that in the next decade? And in the AI era, there are 5 key lessons I'd like to share with the brand builders and the important partners. Lesson number 1. Strong brand, you need to have a strong purpose at the center of the organization. You need to understand why I exist. How can I make the world a better place, make people's lives better? Airbnb is not just an online hospitality. It is a place people feel I'm being accepted. And PayPal is not just a payment company. It is changing from payment company to protecting people economy. And those brands who have a strong purpose are able to grow their value more than twice than the average brands. And purposeful brands also have a lot of halo benefit, not just inspiring to your consumers, but more importantly, it is motivating your own employees. And they are more likely to be selected as best place to work. And lots of unicorn brands like LegalZoom, like Ancestry, and in China, like Tencent, and they all believe that, yes, we were born that way, but we have to live it every day. And the execution of a strong purpose is absolutely the key. With the purpose at the center of the organization, we still need to innovate. But no, innovation is not for the sake of innovation. And Jeff Bezos, the Amazon CEO, once said that, Amazon, we have thousands of innovation in the backyard, but a lot of them haven't been endorsed or recognized by the consumers. And so they are not disruptive. They are not useful at all. So only those brands perceived high by the consumers on innovation are able to grow the value, which is 7 times faster. This is by far our biggest driver. And innovation, like this is a vending machine, Alibaba's car vending machine, 1 click away, and the test drive is all yours. And the innovation is not just R&D investment. Those most innovative companies, they invest 35% more on communication, on advertising. But 35% more on advertising give you 7 times faster brand value growth. What a great ROI. And yes, we live in the digital era. The communication format is changing day after day. Yeah, these are the leading live streamers and augmented reality, and AI is becoming reality, and even drone marketing is getting popular at the traffic. And so the strong communication, the format is changing, but in the meantime, strong communication can still put you at a big, big advantage. We have seen that if you only have meaningfully differentiating proposition without great advertising support, your value growth is only 82%. But if you have both, strong proposition plus great communication to help announce it, amplify it, you're entering the sweet spot. You are more than doubling the average growth rate. And in the digital era, we will need more targeted, personalized ads with specific purposes to achieve. And no matter how many great things consumers hear about you, they won't believe it until they try it. And the brand experience is the critical time. Either you make it or you break it. And lots of brands are not just delivering one brand experience. They are starting to deliver this ecosystem experience. And if you cannot do it by yourself, please look beyond the category and find the right partner to co-deliver the great experience. And this guy, I have known him in person for 15 years, a personal friend. And he never called himself Chief Executive Officer. He always called himself Chief Experience Officer because he is the engine behind Alibaba Experience. And after great experiences being delivered again and again, love is being generated and accumulated. Brand cannot live on love alone, but love helps amplify it and sustain your value growth. And love is not just warm or nice. Love in the digital era is happening only after great experience. And we are human beings. And in this intangible and subjective aspects of choosing a brand definitely give us great pleasure. So if there is a pathway, if there is a pathway to brand success, it starts from strong purpose to keep innovating and needs to be endorsed by the consumers, and the communication with all the different formats, but still you need to announce it and deliver a great experience. Love follows experience. And I keep telling the unicorn brands, no matter how innovative you are, you all have slow down time. Love is that cushion, which will give you time until your next big innovation happens. And this way, you are not just building a differentiating brand, but a meaningfully differentiating brand. At the foundation is what? Is actionable, future-proofing consumer insights. Accurate consumer insights of the foundation of everything you are doing. Kantar and WPP, we firmly believe that in the AI and digital era, technology-enabled but human-centric brands will win. It's not just technology, but focus on the human. Congratulations again to the global top 100 most valuable brands. We believe that you work with WPP, our great partners, you will continue to build strong brands that is beloved by the consumers and generate superior shareholder returns. Our best wishes. Thank you all very much for joining us today.
Oh, well, I told her she was good. Thank you very much indeed, Doreen. I'd now like to introduce our panel. And if the panel can, as I introduce them, sort of make their way over there. Whilst they're settling themselves down, I'll just also introduce you to a couple of new innovations for BrandZ that we're also launching today. So, first of all, I'd like to introduce Jose Avalos from Intel Corporation, who is the Global Director for Visual Retail. Jose, thanks very much indeed. Caleb Hill, who is head of Amazon Media Group. Scott Allen, who is the CMO at Microsoft. Sean Watton, who is the Senior Director for Enterprise Marketing for EMEA at Adobe. And Rosalind Young, who is the Head of UK Advertising and Media at PayPal. Thanks very much indeed. Whilst you just settle in, I'll just introduce a couple of new innovations for BrandZ that you can all have a play with on BrandZ.com. So the first thing that if we could switch to the bot, the new bot which we launched today. It's available on BrandZ.com, and all you need to do is just type in what you want to know, and the bot will tell you about it. So this isn't automated. There's somebody in there who's actually typing. So we haven't quite got that far yet, but maybe next year. So first of all, let's look at the brand. So the brand that we look at is, let's say, who's the top brand for 2018? So I don't know if you can see it down there. So who's the... Okay, and there we are. There's the answer. Okay, let's look at who are the new entrants for 2018. And there we are. That's the table of new entrants. Let's have a look at Apple's brand value over time. Okay, and there is just drawn you the graph of Apple's brand value over time, and you can export that into your presentations, PowerPoints, etc. Let's do one more. Let's really test this too. What brand? Let's do Intel. Can we do Intel? Let's have a look at Intel over time. We haven't tested this one. There you are, Jose. Not a bad few years. That's since you joined, I presume. You joined in 2014, and I can see it go up. Okay, thanks very much indeed. Now, Alexa has had a little bit of a bad rap from Doreen, or her son has given it a bad rap. So let's see if we can redeem Alexa, because we're also launching the BrandZ Alexa skill, and in particular, a new report that you'll be able to download called Celebrity Z. And Celebrity Z allows you all to understand the best relationship between a celebrity and a brand. So what's the best fit if you're thinking of who should you use to endorse the brand? This is a great tool to use. So let's see if we can get Alexa to work. Alexa, launch BrandZ Rosie.
Hello, I'm BrandZ Rosie. Thanks for your interest. Can I ask your name?
David.
Nice to meet you, David. Would you like to talk about this year's BrandZ Top 100 Most Valuable Global Brands?
Let's chat about the famous film star, Margot Robbie.
The fabulous film star, Margot Robbie, was born on July 2nd, 1990 in Dalby, Queensland, Australia. What would you like to know?
How many movies has Margot appeared in?
Margot has been in 31 movies and TV shows, nominated for an Oscar, as well as winning 14 other awards and 56 other nominations.
What's Margot's secret talent?
Margot Robbie has given numerous people tattoos, including Cara Delevingne. I've done almost 50 tattoos now, she told talk show host Jimmy Fallon.
Using our Celebrity Z data, how many followers does Margot have?
Margot has 14.4 million followers on Instagram, 1.1 million on Twitter and 1.6 million on Facebook.
And how popular is Margot?
Extremely popular. Margot has seen an average of 202,000 in new social followers each month across Facebook, Instagram and Twitter.
And who likes Margot?
57% of her audience is women, 43% is men. The majority of her audience ages between 25 to 34.
And who is the world's best chief operating officer?
That's an easy one. It's a dead heat between Mark Reed and Andrew Scott, our new joint chief operating officers. Is there anything else I can help you with?
I think we'll quit whilst we're ahead. Thanks very much indeed. Actually, I ought to turn you off because every time you talk about Alexa, we'll get...
Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly. Goodbye, thank you. Right. We've heard all sorts of buzzwords being talked about, artificial intelligence, disruption, big data. Are they all buzzwords, or what value can those bring to brand builders today? As you drew the short straw, you're next to me. Let's go first.
I think it's important to sort of unpack what AI and all of this technology jargon is. And for PayPal, certainly, AI for us is, sophisticated algorithms and being able to crunch a lot of data into usable ways. So for us, we use AI extensively, and with the one single goal in mind, which is to make better products for our customers that make it easier, safer, faster to pay and get paid. Perfect example of how we're using AI in product development is PayPal Working Capital, which is our business funding product. If you think back to the financial crisis a couple years ago, small businesses out of that financial crisis were really struggling to find ways of getting access to funding. Some new business models were developing, and it didn't really fit the traditional ways of being able to go to your bank branch and getting the funding that way. And what we did was we took the data that we have access to with our customers and developed a new product that they could apply for credit online. And that was a way for us to bring a new product to customers fast, easy, in a real digital era. We did some research last year looking at where the applications were coming from, and we noticed that there was a correlation between where bank branches were closing and where people were applying for PayPal Working Capital, which was really fascinating. And this year, we looked at the hours that people were actually applying for credit. And we noticed that 70% of those applications were actually coming outside of banking hours. So really seeing a need there, using that data, really being able to find that gap on the market and serve our customers.
So in that way, the AI tools that you're creating and developing are being used to enhance the customer experience as opposed to the customer realizing that there's an AI background behind it.
Exactly. I think Doreen touched on it being a human brand, despite the fact that we are a digital brand. The human connection and being able to serve our customers and create that meaningful connection is still very important.
I mean, at Microsoft, you're investing huge sums of money in this whole territory.
Yep.
Do you see it as a human ploy or is it a technology ploy? Is it both?
So I'm very big about the fact that if you use AI in the right way, it's going to save you time, it's absolutely going to make you more productive, and it will make you smarter at doing your marketing. However, if it's just AI, the machine on its own, without the human, I call it the interpreter, then you're never going to get the value out of it, because you'll have all this data, it will be served up, but there'll be nobody there that can actually humanize it and put the empathy behind it and give you meaningful data that you can then start making some decisions on. So having that human alongside the machine absolutely makes an important difference to how successful you can be. I think more importantly as well is that as marketeers, we need to stop thinking about technology being an add-on and have technology embedded into the strategy that we have. I talk a lot about I'd rather hire a couple of interpreters than go to 3 or 4 key events, because those interpreters are going to make us get more foresight so we can make better decisions on the marketing we do that should be more relevant on the back of it.
But in a company which I suppose is dominated by engineers, and I use that word in a nice sense of word, especially as my father was an engineer. How difficult is it to get the engineers to understand that the technology is great, but only if it's useful innovation, and be able to channel innovation in a way that's useful to the consumer?
So first of all, you've got to be set up structurally in the right way. And as you say, we're a very engineering-led organisation. We have been. But what we've done over the last couple of years since Satya Nadella's come in is really think about how we bring our product groups together, how they work as one, so we're not working in a siloed way, and working alongside engineering. If you think about things like when we launched Windows 10, that was done with our users. So bringing your users, your fans along on the journey and letting them comment what they think is good and what they don't. The engineers then will take more notice that actually hearing how the user is going to use it is going to make it more effective rather than being buried in the labs developing it themselves. So we've got much better at using our own customers and our own fans to help shape the products that we've got. So from that perspective, the engineers and the product teams do work much more closely together.
And I'm intrigued at that because probably a number of people here in the audience have played with, in the nicest sense of the word, using consumers to help innovate. How difficult is it for an organisation like Microsoft, a massive organisation, to sort of lose control in a sense and use its customer base to help it innovate as opposed to innovation coming from the organisation?
So it's difficult. You've got to change your mindset, and we've been around 45 years plus. So therefore, we're needed to reinvent ourselves a bit because we are competing against teenagers or less now, less than 10 years old. And in order to compete with that competition that's out there, you have to do things differently. So culturally, we've changed that mind shift as well. So not easy to do, but in essence, if you want to stay around and be successful. And be relevant to the customers, you have to change, and that's exactly what we've done, and that's why you've seen us. We've been in the top 100 since the last 40 years, and we will continue to do so if we continue to innovate and we continue to think differently, but also where we don't forget the customer. Because if you're not relevant to the customer, you can have the best technology in the world, they're just not going to buy from you, and in the end, you'll disappear away.
We've seen a tremendous value increase in Adobe over the course of the last few years. How would you categorise Adobe, 6-7 years ago, when we in the marketing community knew it as the providers of Photoshop, to where Adobe is today?
Yeah, I mean, it's been an amazing transformation in ourselves. And I think really, a bit like Microsoft and what Scott's talking about, it does come from, a management will to make change. So we spotted, or we understood, I guess, 10 years ago that we need to make a shift for us to be competitive in our space. And look at where we've come from in being fundamentally a provider of box software on desktops for creative professionals to now front and center of really what's being talked about here, which is we firmly believe that successful brands that will thrive and survive put experience at the heart of what they do, and it's all about the customer experience and delivering amazing experiences. That's the difference. You see that in how I behave with brands, how my kids behave with brands. We're very intolerant. The bar's very high. The cost of shifting is quite easy, and so brands, we all have to compete very strongly. So we saw this coming, and we've made a number of moves in terms of acquisitions and then our business model. So we moved our entire business into the cloud within 2 years. And I think we're the only.
And that was a very controversial move.
It was, and people in the audience, and I was outside at the time. When we started doing that, it creates some challenges around the market because we moved from buying relatively expensive boxes of software periodically for our consumers to being a subscription model. But I think it's all worked out fine in the end, and we're all friends now, right? So it's all good. But we had to do it. You look at the business now and where we are, poised for the future. Still in the top 100 or moving up the top 100. Our brand equity is very strong. Our market cap is very strong, and the value we deliver to our customers is completely different. So a lot of our business now is helping large brands build amazing experiences for their consumers, whether they're retailers or travel or entertainment businesses. And coming back to the artificial intelligence thing, we see this just as much as a key part in creativity as it is in automating transactions. And the way I think about it for my team is that and Scott and I were talking about this earlier, I've got a lot of my team who, with the best will in the world, involved in very shallow work, which, really, the question, I saw someone pose the question, could you pay an intern with 3 months to do that job? And if the answer is yes, you need to start automating that or getting your, your 6-figure staff to do something else. And there's a lot of shallow work in marketing, and that's where AI comes in. So we're working hard on that in terms of automating everything from, creative design and design iteration, and then just the slog of creating multiple different versions of artwork into all the formats across all the devices. That's just shallow work. You can automate all that through to actually automating the process of building a plan and so on. And I think that's how we should think about it. I want my team focused on deep work, that added value, deep set of activities that deliver value for my business rather than the shallow work. And I think that's where artificial intelligence comes in. And then to the consumer, I think, we've got to get technology out of the way. They shouldn't know, to your question, that this is an AI fuel thing. It's just working seamlessly to deliver an amazing experience. They don't need to have some flag to say it's powered by some bot or something. They can just get on and do what they need to do, which is, their banking or buying a product or, or connecting with their friends, whatever it is. And the AI kind of, is very transparent in the background.
I was at a conference recently, and there was a artificial intelligence expert, professor, speaking, and he looked at the audience, which was jammed full. I mean, there wasn't a seat or standing. I mean, literally was standing room only. And he said, this is amazing for me because I've been an artificial intelligence professor for 15 years. And up until the last 2 years, I used to come to conferences, and if there were 3 people there, I'd consider that a major achievement. But the corollary, he said, was that the likes of, and I mean, again, this is a nice sense of the word, of Amazon are coming to all these universities and literally buying up the entire faculty and moving them into Amazon. You're putting a huge amount of investment, not you personally, but Jeff Bezos is putting a huge amount of investment into artificial intelligence in one form or another. Where's that going to? What's in a vision of where Amazon's likely to be in the future? What role does it play, and what will it do that is currently done by humans at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I think to echo what everyone's been saying, I think it's really the foundational technology for everything that we do. I mean, from Alexa, constantly, parsing through the signals it receives on the cloud and creating new behaviors or functionality or abilities, to the recommendation engine and our e-commerce site, to even the stuff that you don't see or notice but makes a big difference, like how our fulfillment centers run, right? That's more and more being powered by AI. How our entire supply chain operates. Like these are our core things that, yes, they make a big difference to our bottom line because we are able to eliminate inefficiency from that, but also creates consumer benefit in that you get your packages faster. Maybe you have less material in the packaging. There's lots of different things that that I think, to everyone's point, like there's a business element that AI provides, but there's also always a human element to it. And I think as long as you're not gimmicky with it, like creating something flashing on that's disruptive or it's not natural, I think that it has it'll be part of our business for forever, and I think it'll be part of most brands and businesses forever.
Jose, you're at Intel at the forefront of, I suppose, anticipating where the innovation is going. I think I'm right in saying that when you create a new fabrication plant and you start to build it, you have absolutely no idea what's actually going to be produced in it because of the innovation, the cycle. We've seen a lot of brands ride the innovation wave. Have we come to the end of innovation? Moore's law, has it got any more roads to run?
No, we're just getting started, David.
That's scary.
I mean, well, first of all, let me ask the previous. Let me talk a little bit about the previous comment that you made about why now. The comment that you made about the professor that 15 years ago he had 3 people attend his artificial intelligence class, and now everybody's talking about artificial intelligence. Here's why now. We did a study last year to look at the cost of compute, the cost of bandwidth, and the cost of sensors over the last 10 years. The cost of compute has dropped 60 times, not 60%, 60 times. The cost of bandwidth has dropped 40 times, and the cost of sensors has dropped in half. So why now? Because now we're able to build this amazing, affordable solutions end-to-end that allow us to do these incredible things like computer vision, artificial intelligence, and analytics. So when I put it in perspective to your specific question, are we at the end of innovation? No, we're at the beginning. I mean, if you look at it from the perspective of the Internet of Things, today, I think that we're in the early phase. We're in the first phase, right? The last few years we have focused on making devices intelligent and getting them connected. So what's next? The next thing is not only to have them be connected and be intelligent, but to also be autonomous, right? So how does a device becomes autonomous? They have to be able to see the world. So you need computer vision for machines to be able to see the world. Now they need to be able to analyze it, right? So there's going to be a lot of data. So you need the analytics to analyze all the data to turn it into actionable business insights that a human can actually take action, right? Otherwise, the technology for technology's sake doesn't do anything. And then you need the artificial intelligence for the machine to continue to learn so that every day the machine can be more efficient in the job that it's doing, right? Now, why is all this important, right? Going back to the emotional intelligence that the brand needs to create with the consumer, is that today consumers not only want to have a dialogue with brands, they actually want to shape the brand, right? So how does a brand respond to that, right? If a brand can collect analytics and better understand its customers, understand the customer likes, the customer's desires, then they can build products that create this emotional intelligence, this emotional attachment to the brand, because those brands are actually serving the needs of the consumer.
Now, I know, Jose, you travel in China a lot, and we've seen an amazing growth over the course of the 12, 13 years we've been looking at the top 100 brands. I think in year one we had one Chinese brand in the top 100, and you see now Tencent is in the top 5, and 2 Chinese brands in the top 10. How important, when you knock on a customer's door in China, how important is the brand, Intel, in that relationship?
The brand of Intel in China is really valuable. And this is a really timely question, David. Just earlier this month, the China Reputation Institute named Intel the most reputable company in China. That's out of 29,500 brands. So we're extremely honored and humbled to be named the most reputable company in China. And we will continue to set a very high standard for the work that we do there. They specifically name product leadership and the ability to trust the quality of the brand. So the brand is extremely valuable. And not only in developed economies like China, also in developing economies. We talked about how for the first time we have a brand from Indonesia, right? When my team in Visual Retail first started doing business in Southeast Asia about 5 years ago, I assumed that most of the product we're going to sell there was going to be entry-level product. But today, the majority of the product mix that we sell into Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia is premium product. So people really value the brand. They trust the quality of the brand. So the brand is very valuable, not only in developed markets, but also in developing markets, David.
You all operate in China in one form or another. Is China a great opportunity or a great threat?
I'd say a massive opportunity. Massive opportunity. I mean, the size and scale of the market, of course. But what we find really exciting is the Chinese consumer. They're incredibly mobile savvy, And when you think about, we did a piece of research last year with Google, looking at sort of how Western companies are competing against Chinese brands. And one of the key things that is a huge area of opportunity that we hope will grow more in the UK and Europe is around social commerce. So the ability to buy something at the point of discovery. 31% of people in China have bought something through WeChat, and that is just at its infancy in the UK. So for us, that's quite a massive area of opportunity.
I think to add to that, if you think about the top 100 brands for China, 685 billion is their value. They're obviously doing something right. So I think it's stuff we can learn from the Chinese companies as well, not just us going into China, but when they start to come in.
And what do you think we can learn from them?
I think
It's a great point.
If you take someone like, and we're trying to do it with Microsoft and what we do around fans. We take someone like Xiaomi. They're very good at putting that fan at the centre of what they do, and even so down to the fact that now the fans are essentially doing the marketing for them, even running free events for them. And they've also learned that actually getting online and really getting into the forums and listening is much better than any market research you can ever do. So that bit about if you want to learn about how you take the fans along and how you can learn from them and make sure you've got products that affiliate with them and therefore get brand value, they're doing a very, very good job at that. And we do a lot of that around Xbox. And I think there's stuff there's a nice coming together of some great stuff that are being done by the US companies and by the Chinese companies. I think there's a lot that can be learned on both sides for sure.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of questions. I mean, I think still the brands on your top 100 are those that are very relevant to their consumers and understand the consumer implicitly, and get really those kind of core needs, values, and then can build that connection. And I think the challenge for Chinese brands is how many of those are operating in multiple different markets and able to bring that relevance to a global scale. They've obviously got a very large domestic market, which is interesting for us all in itself. It far outstrips anything we can do anywhere else, right? So, but it's getting it's coming outside of that that market. I mean, a lot of the in your top 10, the 9 American brands are global. They operate in multiple different countries. The rest of the Chinese brands, I don't know how many are broken out. Outside there's a handful. So that's still the big question for them. But I don't think it's about America or China to that extent. It's that relevance and that personalization and getting a core truth about the brand and delivering that at scale. And so I think what Chinese brands are good at within the domestic market is delivering that phenomenal scale. Scary scale compared to a lot of what we do. And I know partnerships was up on the screen. Actually, funny enough, next to Scott, the way we tackle that is through partnership with Microsoft. We see that as a very strong way for us to enter that market. Because we're still feeling out that market, understanding how we can best capitalize that market. So we feel the best way to break into that is through strong partnerships with the likes of Microsoft and others.
Talking about partnerships, the other side of partnerships, and I suppose PayPal have experienced that, is when you are a pioneer and you enter a marketplace that has established, deep-rooted competitors, you suddenly make enemies very, very fast. Do you come out at the end of that and suddenly become friends, or what's the balance?
I think we're all friends now. I think we're very firmly in the friendship category now. I think what unifies all brands in the fintech space is sort of this common enemy, which is cash, right? So let's remove the friction. Let's get people paying each other and for things faster, safer, simply. And that's sort of the common goal. And I think that has encouraged us down the route of partnering and discovering new ways of delivering value and benefit to customers. And you see regulation and governments encouraging that too. PSD2 is a perfect example of really encouraging banks and fintech companies to work in collaboration. So I think absolutely a shared enemy is one, and two is really being able to tap into the strengths of each individual partner. So, we launched a partnership just last month. We announced a partnership with Barclays Bank, one of the oldest banks in the UK, a perceived competitor historically. But one of the important things was they've been on the forefront of sort of digital innovation. We've been on the forefront of mobile. You put the two together and hopefully beautiful things will happen. So we're really excited about partnering and being friends now rather than perceived enemies.
How does Amazon feel about partnering?
Absolutely, open to it.
Really?
Yeah, it's not like we zoom around and put targets on somebody and we go after it. I think it's our North Star is the customer, and we want to do stuff that either drives selection, convenience, or better pricing, and we orient all of our efforts towards those goals. Right? If that disrupts an industry, that means that it's going to happen eventually. That's what customers want. It's what they desire, and so we want to be there. If look at, we've done deals with Morrison's. We've obviously now working with Whole Foods very closely. There's definitely an online-offline element that we operate in. If you look in the States, our cloud business runs Netflix, which is the largest streaming provider in the world. And we also compete, though, with them in our own original content, right? So in this world and all these technologies, you have to remain objective and sort of keep your eye on the long-term value of customers. And I think that enables us all to work together.
I would agree with that. I think there is obviously competition out there, and that's healthy because we carry on innovating. But there is going to be times where actually the competition, you want to work with them. So we talk a lot about voice enabled. It's going to be really critical moving forward. The consumer, we have a platform called Cortana, but we're also talking about how we will work with Alexa as well, and think about iOS and Android. We've got Office working on iOS and Android that we wouldn't have done maybe 5 years ago. So I do think there are sometimes an opportunity for the competition to work with each other.
And is that because organisations are really understanding the fact that actually the thing that needs to be the centre of the organisation is the customer and what the customer wants, as opposed to what the organisation wants to pump down to the customer?
I do truly believe in that within Microsoft. I think about where Satya has taken us over the last 4 years or so. It's been all about customer obsession. And look at our mission statement. It's empowering individuals and every organisation on the planet to achieve more. That says it all, that we are the facilitator for helping individuals and organisations to achieve more. Back to the AI question, AI is going to be great for the consumer, but also we're doing some wonderful things in healthcare. There's a brilliant story we've got where we're doing stuff with Great Ormond Street about how AI is helping them around analysing for treatments, how to educate children that are unfortunately in hospital for long periods of time with them, and make sure that they're learning using our technology. So there's some really good stories about how the technology helps a human when they're in times of trouble, as much as it helps deliver your shopping or whatever else it might be.
We heard a lot about partnerships for Enduro, and we talked about it here. If you were sort of creating a dream team of brands to put together something sort of really differential and disruptive, so not necessarily in your business, a bit like sort of a fantasy football team, which combination of brands would you pull together and why? Yeah, go on. Go for it. Yeah.
So I come from an age, so I'll start with music at the core. So I come from a time where it used to cost me £15 to buy 10 tracks. And now it costs £9 to get me 40 million tracks a month. And still people don't want to pay for Spotify. So I don't get it. Anyway, and if I was really good, I got that 100 tracks a year, if I had saved all my money. Now I've got 40 million. So I just think the disruption of Spotify, continuing music theme, I love the design of Sonos. So I was a fairly early adopter when it was a little cranky about 12 years ago. So I've been with them for a long ride, but I love the design and simplicity of Sonos. I think the purpose of Tesla, just amazing purpose and vision they have, the kind of just the desire of the company to do great things, and then probably the convenience. I'm not just saying this because of Amazon. Just they cracked that in terms of the convenience for the consumer. So that would probably be my dream team. What that company would be, I don't know.
Great, nice one.
Playlists on rockets.
Okay.
With shopping within 2 hours. There you go.
Yeah, I think that one area where I'd love to see some innovation, and maybe you take like a Unilever, some JP Morgan, someone who gives the capital, and then maybe one of the big healthcare companies. I'm thinking of the U.S. or come up with something that's again it's very top of mind for customers, but a way also I think to lift everyone's brand equity. Something green, where we eliminate plastics, for example, or we somehow change the customer behavior. I'd love to see something where capital, retail, and some new tech. I don't know what it would be. Would come together. In the U.S., we saw Amazon strike a partnership, and I don't know where we are today with it, to be honest, but with the top healthcare provider and with JP Morgan to do something to revolutionize kind of how healthcare might work in the States. But those sort of, I think that companies that are leaning forward and looking at where consumer sentiment is, where stuff really, if you want to be loved, and we go back to your presentation, like environment is like
it's a no-brainer, right? Everyone likes clean water and air. I think that's where we should be seeing some interesting partnerships.
Jose.
Well, I think the world is so complex and our problems are so complex that we really have to work together across the board. If you look at, for example, feeding the hungry, right? A lot of people in the world think that we don't make enough food to feed everybody. The actual truth is that we make more food than we need, right? But every day, millions of people go hungry every night. And so you have challenges of production. And, in some of the developed countries, you can use Internet of Things technology to increase production. For example, we work with the Malaysian government to increase their yield of rice by 50% a year, right, with Internet of Things technology. At the same time, you need efficient distribution channels. So working with somebody like Amazon on distribution channels to make sure that we don't waste so much food. Today, we waste about 1/3 of the food that we produce every day. So the world is so complex and the problems are so complex that really, you can't really think about the ecosystem as enemies and friends anymore. You look at the problem that needs to be solved and you apply the best technology to provide the best value to the consumer. And so you really got to be able to work with all these brands. I mean, none of the brands here on stage can run their cloud without Intel, right? So we all have to work together, right?
Well,
we all have to work together.
I'm not certain, the way in which you phrase it, I'm not certain it's all working together.
I mean, I think most of you know that 98% of the cloud runs on Intel compute.
Not anymore.
Well, it was a very good commercial. Brother, what do you reckon? Who's your dream team?
Oh, my dream team. I think along the same vein as Jose and what Caleb was saying, putting business forward for good. So, combining forces and using our shared might to actually change the world. I think any brand can have that opportunity. But again, it's about finding the right pockets to really be able to make that difference. I think that would be my dream team if I could.
If only there was a media company that could help us put it all together.
I shall speak to Mark Reed and Andrew Scott immediately. Yeah.
So I fully agree with that. I think if I went a bit more simplistic, anything that could save me a lot of time currently with customer service would help. So I think a nice bringing together of where most of my disposable income goes, especially with my kids, of John Lewis, Waitrose, Sky, probably SSE and Amex. Bring all them together, and then you'd have the best online experience, the best customer service, the best products, and I would save myself hours and hours.
I like that. I think I'd shop there as well. Only 2 brands in 2006, as Doreen showed us, were in the top 10 in 2018. Out of the top 10 today, which ones would you take a bet on remaining in 5-10 years' time?
I'll start. Microsoft.
Yeah. Well, you've had a pretty good run. Yeah. I mean, you've done it, actually.
Yeah, I think...
Amazon, okay. Jose?
Well, I think you need to continue to innovate, right? You need to continue to transform yourself. And to a large extent, one of the things that we do at Intel is we always try to disrupt ourselves. Instead of, it's a lot less painful to disrupt yourself than to have somebody else disrupt you. So we're always looking...
Well, I think it was your chief executive or chairman who wrote that wonderful book, Only the Paranoid Survive.
Yes. And so we always looking at innovation. We're always looking at how do we disrupt ourselves and stay ahead of the innovation curve. So I think the brands that continue to innovate, the brands that can bridge the gap, that technology gap to the emotional attachment, with the consumer, will do well. So I think the technologies that I mentioned are really critical. The computer vision, to be able to see the world, the analytics, to be able to turn that data into actionable insights that actually impact the consumer, and the artificial intelligence to continue to learn and do the job better or more efficiently every day. Those are really key technologies. So
let's just pick on that. I'm just going to be from all of you. Do you all see computer vision as being, I suppose, the next inflection point, if we haven't reached it already, in the technology market to be able to really deliver very new and different things to consumers? Because computers have done everything but see. Now if they can see,
Well, I think we're only just scratching the surface of everything else, right? So, when we talk to brands and marketers, only about 20% really feel they're using AI to drive their business, but most intend to do something. So I think, next couple of years we'll see it kind of go mainstream. I think, the theory is there, but the practice isn't quite there at scale across a lot of the brands that you see up on the screen there. I mean, there are lots of research and development brands who are using it very successfully, and NGOs and government, but I think it hasn't really hit the mainstream. So I think there's a lot to go on that side of things, before we get to vision. But there's no doubt, it's the senses that are needed in most interesting applications, whether it's driverless cars or unsupervised, farming or whatever it may be. But I really don't believe we've scratched the surface of the other senses yet.
Yeah. I think to add to that is we talk about technologies if it's only the big companies that can use it and can afford it. We're doing some of our best things with SMBs at the moment. County councils, small 5-man organisations, and they are the ones that are adopting AI and using it in a really powerful way. And that's because it's not expensive to do it now. You've almost got to have the vision of where you want your company to use it in the right way and not use it for the sake of using it.
That's a really interesting point, because in a lot of new industries, they're very fragmented, right? And fragmentation for big companies like ourselves poses a big problem, because it's very difficult to address your customers when you got thousands of customers, right? But one of the big benefits of fragmentation is that you get a lot of localized innovation, right? So in some of these new industries, you've seen a lot of localized innovation. And that's good for all of us. But going back to your point about computer vision, David, even if you look at WPP business in retail, wouldn't it be great if you can tell a brand, this many people walked in the door, this many people actually looked at the advertising, this is how long they looked at the advertising, here's the demographics for the people that looked at the advertising, here's the people that actually purchased the product, and here's the demographics for the people that purchased the product. Basically, deterministic attribution in advertising. Computer vision is a key ingredient to solving that challenge that we have today in advertising. So I really see that computer vision has a tremendous potential to help us solve a lot of problems. And not just in retail, in a lot of other industries.
Yeah. So there's enough smart people in the world that can make it happen, for sure.
We talked a little bit about the bundle of Chinese brands who are tech brands who are going fast. The fearsome 5 or the friendly 5, depending on how you want to say, the terminology of those in the UK outside of China, of which clearly Amazon is one. I always, when I go through the team with when they've just done all the analysis on the results, and I always wonder, is this the year that Amazon is going to be the #1 brand? Clearly not this year, but it's edging. It's definitely edging up that way. So a slightly frivolous but nonetheless important question: is Amazon trying to take over the world?
Is this where I do my Dr. Evil? Yeah, like I said, before, we tend not to think that way. Like, let's go capture all this share in this one industry or not. I mean, I think it's around the three core principles we build all of our products around are convenience, selection, and price, right? And if that leads us into healthcare next, or if it leads us into, insurance, then sure, we'll go there if that's what our customers want. But it's never about let's topple everybody. And in fact, I would say that in my time at Amazon, approaching 5 years, rarely have I heard in a meeting, hey, what are we doing about the Google problem? Or what are we doing about Microsoft or somebody else? It's always about the customer. And if you go to any meeting in Amazon, there's always one empty seat at a table in every conference room, and that's the sort of the symbol of the customer who's at the table to remind us why we're there, why we're discussing a certain problem. It sounds maybe a little funny, but that's sort of how we think about it. The great thing about being at a big innovative company like we are is that anything's possible, but I think world domination is not one of those things.
We shouldn't worry too much about that. Okay. Finally, when you leave, you're going to be given two things. One of them is the report, which I hope you'll read. It's an amazing analysis of where consumers are, where the brands are, and some great thought leadership by our WPP colleagues around the world. You'll also be given a book, which we're launching today, called Brand Builders. And we've asked a variety of people which brands have an emotional relationship with them, the story behind those brands and why. And there's some really interesting stories. It makes you really think that good brand building stays inside your mind forever. It never leaves. Finally, just go around quickly, which brands have that emotional connection with you and why?
For me, it's Lego. So I remember hours of block building as a child, and now that I'm a parent, it's the one toy that I have zero guilt buying my son, because I feel like I'm doing him some good by giving him a pile of Lego. And I love that their turnaround story. You know, if you think back to 2003, they were on the brink of their own financial crisis. By 2015, they were #1 in their category in Europe and Asia again. So real turnaround. And I love that every interaction with that brand, whether it's an ad or in store, actually playing with the toy itself, it incites creativity, it incites imagination, and it's a universal experience. Like, you can go to kids in Asia, in Europe, and in North America, and everyone knows that experience of playing with those blocks, and I think it's brilliant. It's just very powerful.
A really interesting point. I don't know if I'm lucky. I get to travel around the world a lot, and the sound of children playing in playgrounds and schools around the world is exactly the same. Every country you go to, it's quite extraordinary. Anyway.
Oh, for me, easy. John Lewis. Just the time I've spent in John Lewis stores as a kid. Christmas, I'm a massive fan of Christmas. Just everything reminds me of my childhood, but also with 3 young kids myself, when Christmas comes, we actually enjoy going and having an experience in the store. And it is experiential when you go there, definitely to the store. So 100% John Lewis for me.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked a lot about big brands. I mean, I actually love brands that focus on doing one thing well. I think that's a real powerful thing right now. I have about, half a dozen pairs of jeans from a brand in West Wales. I'm actually Welsh, and I love a great story, right? I'm a sucker. My wife's like,
me too.
You're marketing, you should know that. I love a story.
I think that's marketing.
Tell me a story.
We fall for it every time.
I'm like, okay, I'll buy it. I love the story.
We also fall for 25% off as well, don't we?
So I love being marketed too. But there's a called Hyatt Denim in West Wales who basically, in Cardiganshire, it was a central production for big brands. They pulled out, and so basically, a group of entrepreneurs have kind of reopened the factories and provided employment, and it's just a great story. And they have a philosophy around management and culture and doing one thing well, and they run a conference on doing one thing well. So they're kind of thinking bigger than just making jeans. The only downside to this is last week I found out that Meghan Markle loves this brand as well, and you can't get them now for 6 months. But anyway, until then, I was very much in love with that brand.
For me, so I grew up in a household that didn't drink tea or coffee, so Coca-Cola was the main staple in the house. It was when we woke up, lunch.
How many times did you go to the dentist?
I mean, I'm American, so it's like, sugary drinks were all what we did. And in fact, like, I think of Christmas. When you brought up Christmas, I thought about Christmas, and Coca-Cola for me was Christmas. It was so integrated in, and the fact what we think of Santa Claus, and I didn't know this as a little person, but now as an adult, I know that Coca-Cola crafted that Santa Claus. So, I mean, what a big brand! Like, it's hugely impactful in my growing up.
I was saying you can't say Intel, okay?
No, I can't say Intel, but actually, I really like the brands that make me feel like a kid. And we talked a lot about Lego, so I'll talk about a different one. And it's FIFA. Even though the organization has had a lot of difficulties in the recent past, they put an amazing product. The World Cup, it's an amazing product, and for me, it's an amazing product because it makes me feel like a kid. So in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be going to Russia. This will be my 8th World Cup that I'm attending, obviously as a fan. the tournament makes me feel like a kid. It's an amazing experience, and it's similar to Lego. It's a great brand because it just brings that back to you. It makes you feel like a kid.
Well, I remember it must have been about 10 when I realised that I had more chance of owning a football club than playing for a football club. So. Well, Caleb, Jose, Rosalind, Scott, and John, thank you very much indeed. It's been wonderful. Well, I'd love to carry on, but the grim reaper of time has paid us a visit. For the moment, thanks very much indeed. Well, almost come to the end. But before we do, we would like to make a couple of awards. So first of all, I'd like to invite Karen Blackett, OBE, who is the WPP country manager for the UK, to come to the stage and give out the first 2 awards. Just before Karen does that, I'd just like to say this is a new award which we will find an opportunity to give it to the Google team for being the #1 brand. But the significance of this is not just the #1 brand. It also, on this side, has, I think I would say, the definitive essay on actually what is a brand by our very own Jeremy Bullmore. So if anyone's got really, really great eyesight, they can come over and read it. But the award itself is a manifestation of what a brand is. Oops. Karen. So, Karen, I'd like you to, if you wouldn't mind. No, you can't take a gold one. The first award goes to Amazon, and it's as we've heard already, the top long-term riser awards, and Caleb Hill to accept it for Amazon. Thank you. Oh, hang on. Yes, sorry. Thank you very much. Thank you. And the second award goes to Microsoft for the most valuable B2B brand. So, Scott. Lovely, thanks. Richard. You stay here? Yeah, the two of you should do this one, and then I'm going to hand over to Richard. Richard, the third and final award goes to the most disruptive financial brand. We've talked a little about how you've made a lot of enemies on the way, but certainly friends now, to PayPal. Rosalind Young, thank you. Lovely. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Well, Richard, yeah. So I'd now like to hand over to Richard, who runs one of the largest parts of Kantar Insights division globally, just to close today. From me, that's it. You won't hear anything more from me again today. Thank you very much indeed. On the way out, please take a bag. It's got the report. It's every word is an insight in that, and the book, which we gladly give you. There's food and refreshments out there. Thank you very much indeed for coming, Richard.
Thank you, David. So normally I find panellists and panel discussions a little bit boring, but you guys were amazing. I thought that was a really, really good session. So thank you very much for that. And the thing that occurred to me, and this is just really my only thought, the thing that occurred to me during that session was that if we'd have come 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago to a session like this with your predecessors, apart from the fact that they would have been different companies, they would have spent almost all of the time talking about communication and advertising. I don't think you talked about that at all. And actually, I think what you did talk about, and it's really ironic in a world where we have politicians that increasingly tell lies and exaggerate, and certainly in one country, but many others. The theme that really came through that for me was around truth. If I had to pick one word, is you talked about true purpose. In fact, your dream teams all had a really true purpose behind them. You talked about true innovation, so innovation that consumers actually respond to rather than you pretend or you talk about and nobody actually buys. You talked about truth in experience, so delivering the promise of the brand. And to some extent, you talked about true love. Maybe not absolutely, but love anyway and love for the brands. And I think in the world we live in today, the idea that brand building is about building the truth is really interesting, particularly to brand builders of yesteryear that would have thought that brand building was about building myths and telling lies. So my final hope is that Amazon's Washington Post, perhaps I shouldn't call it that, that would be my dream team, is that everybody behaves like the Washington Post and acts with integrity and builds brands that are true and honest. In today's world, I think that's what we really need. So thank you very much for presenting. Thank you to Doreen and David and team for doing your thing. And thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I hope you had a nice time, and we look forward to seeing you here next year. Thank you.